Welcome back to the Jon Krawcynski Show. This is our basketball show at TalkNorth.com. John, of course, writes The Athletic. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. We appreciate you listening or watching. Best way to listen to the podcast, subscribe to your favorite podcast app. You probably know better how to find stuff on YouTube than I do. I won't give you any advice on that. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
That first sip of coffee on a summer morning. Sunshine. Caffeine. What's better? How about water so good it makes your coffee jealous? Water from Aquarius, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Enjoy sparkling dishes, cloud-soft laundry, and worry-free water from every faucet. Likely for less than your daily iced coffee. Enjoy up to 25% off a new Connecticut system and schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Hi, everyone. This is Dawn Mitchell with a reminder. Please tune in to our podcast every week, Dawn of Sports. You can find it on Talk North Podcast Network.
And we're presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages and Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. John, let us start today with Dame Lillard. He ends up signing elsewhere. Did the Wolves have interest? Did they have realistic chance of getting him?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did have interest in Jim. I think one of the things that we've come to learn about Tim Connolly and about the way this Wolves front office does work is that if there is some sort of high profile talent that they really like, they're aggressive in pursuing avenues to get them. And so I think they did check in with Bradley Beal on some level. I do think that the discussions and the pursuit of Damian Lillard rose above that level a little bit. I think that they were trying to explore their options and see if there was a good fit for Lillard to come to Minnesota, maybe even rehab in Portland for much of the year, the way that he wanted to be around his family, but then possibly towards the end of next season, or certainly for the start of the following season, to be with the Timberwolves. And so there were serious efforts made to see if there was going to be a possible fit there. Ultimately, it came down to a couple of different things. And number one is Damian Lillard going back to the Portland Trailblazers, I think is a great story. Like the franchise that he spent most of his career with, that he became a star, his family is back there. All of that is just a strong, strong pull for Damian Lillard, but also the Blazers gave him $42 million over 3 years, and just the Wolves were never going to come close to that kind of financial investment in him. So from what I understand, I do think that Lillard, in surveying his options, was absolutely giving the Wolves serious consideration if he wanted to go somewhere where he was prioritizing competing for a championship. But when the money was factored in, when the pull of going home was factored in, it didn't really become, anything that got really close or anything like that. But it certainly was, the Wolves were on his short list of teams that he was really thinking about before going back to Portland.
Should he have left Portland to begin with?
Probably not, because we saw, it just didn't seem to work in Milwaukee with Dame and the Bucks. The injury aside, I think he and Giannis got along well. I think they played together well when they were on the court, but there were just injuries between the two of them. But I think one thing that you heard in just kind of looking at the situation was that Damian Lillard didn't like being that far away from his kids. Just the fit with Milwaukee specifically was not perfect for him. And I do think that this was kind of a case of, Dame was maybe pressured into trying to go win a championship somewhere. The Blazers had kind of shifted into a rebuild, and he said in his press conference the other day that as that kind of transition was happening, his communication with the GM Joe Cronin did kind of falter, and so There were, I think, a little bit of hard feelings towards the end of his run there. There was a little bit of bitterness, and so he felt like he needed to go see if he could win a championship somewhere else. And he also felt like there was a lack of understanding between the two sides. And so it was unfortunate the way that it did end, but I'm glad that they're getting a chance to sort of reconcile here, because Damian Lillard is the Portland Trailblazers. And so unlike kind of the KG situation with Minnesota, seeing the two sides come back together, find a way to have sort of a harmonious end here, I think is really important. And I think that Lillard probably came to the realization that hey, look, there's just going to be bigger things than winning a championship. That can't be the be all and end all of my basketball existence. And so it allowed him to look at things in a different light. It allowed the Blazers to look at him in a different light. And now they're back together. And I just think it's good for the league. It's good for him and the Blazers and all of that. But yeah, my guess is that if he were to really kind of open up a vein and think about it, he probably, would be honest and say, I probably should have never left. But there were a ton of circumstances involved in that. And it was a long marriage that had kind of reached a rocky stage, and both sides kind of decided to divorce rather than go to counseling and try and fix it. And now they're back together, and that's a really cool thing.
Is there enough talent there? They do have young talent. Is there enough young talent there that Dame Lillard could help them contend, or is the West too strong for that?
Well, I mean, it's funny because I do think that there is some exciting young talent there with Scoot Henderson. They got Drew Holiday, in a trade, and he's going to help a lot on the court, where Dame, it sounds like, will be more of an off the court guy, at least for most of this season in terms of mentorship and leadership. But they have Toumani Camara, they have Shaedon Sharpe, they have some really good, exciting pieces. And over the second half of last season, they really did start to put things together, especially defensively, and become, one of those teams that is a tough out. And the unfortunate thing is that the West is just loaded. And so I do think that they are going to be better next season. I wonder if they are going to have enough to be, maybe they're in the play-in mix. Maybe, that feels like a reasonable goal, but anything above that, I think, would be asking a lot. That said, I just think the outlook in Portland is much brighter than it was even, a year ago at this time. You're just kind of wondering, where are they going? Like how are they putting it together? Is Chauncey Billups going to be there? There were all sorts of questions, and things have stabilized and solidified enough. So it's going to be an exciting team, and it's going to be a team that you really don't want to play in the regular season, because they're going to play hard and they're going to come after you. And in a West where you need as many wins as you can get, that is definitely not an easy win anymore. And it wasn't for the Timberwolves the past couple of years either. So it's going to be daunting for sure.
Let's get back to Timberwolves. All right, so Dame off the board. Are there moves out there to be made, and are there weaknesses that the Wolves want to shore up?
I mean, certainly looking at point guard / combo guard, with Nickeil Alexander-Walker leaving, with Mike Conley and Rob Dillingham both having their own question marks. Conley with his age, Rob with his age on the other end of the spectrum. I do think that the Timberwolves are looking hard at bringing in another veteran in the backcourt as some sort of an insurance policy. Now, I think that they want Rob Dillingham to take those minutes and to really kind of develop and make that spot his. But I think they would also be foolish if they didn't have a little more depth there, to guard against a Conley injury, to guard against Dillingham not being quite ready yet. And so they are looking at the market. There are a few names out there that I think are more than just sort of flyers. And, Malcolm Brogdon is a name that is, a veteran guy who's run offenses and had success in this league for a while. And I think he's seriously on the radar. I think Cam Payne is on their radar as another guy who has come off the bench into winning situations and made impact. He's a little bit streaky, but certainly has the ability to play well for stretches, and that's what they would need should they falter with Conley or Dillingham. Landry Shamit's another name I'm watching. Like he's not a traditional point guard, but he is another guy who could give you some sort of offensive spark in the backcourt. With Dante DiVincenzo, with Rob Dillingham, with all these guys and all these components that they have on the roster. So I do expect them to add at least one more player of that ilk in the coming weeks to get ready for training camp. But they have not done it yet, but they are exploring all those options, and they will add someone. It's just a matter of who is going to be brought in there at that spot.
What did you make of Summer League? Did anything surprise you?
I think that it was pretty much an ideal summer for the Wolves because they did send a team that was heavy on second year players, or third year in Jalen Clark's situation, but certainly his second year of playing in Summer League. And when you do that, there's sort of a little bit of a risk because if you're a second year player in the league and you have a future in the league, generally speaking, you play well. And if you don't play well, that's a bit of a red flag. If you're a rookie and you're not playing well, if it's just not working out, you can get past that and you can kind of explain that away. But what you want to see out of second year performers in Vegas is you want to see guys really stand out in the crowd. And the play is usually chaotic. It's kind of all over the place, but you want to see guys really assert themselves. And I thought for the most part, the guys who the Wolves want to go into next season relying on, Terrence Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham, Jalen Clark, they all had their moments in Summer League and played quite well at times. And we can start with Shannon. I just think that he really staked a claim for rotation minutes with the way that he played in Las Vegas. He is 25 years old. He's a big, strong dude, and he goes to the basket. He makes things happen. He bullied the other, the younger guys out there, as he should have. And he showed, an increased proficiency from 3-point range. And he also showed more capabilities of making plays for others and of getting, racking up assists, getting guys good looks. All of that kind of really portends well going into next season. He was dominant in his 3 games out there, and he looked like he did not belong out there, and that's exactly what you want. So there is some nervousness certainly about how do you fill Nickeil Alexander-Walker's minutes. He was so important to what they did on both ends of the court coming off of the bench. But if Shannon can give them something similar to what he did in Vegas in terms of being an offensive kind of spark plug, running in transition, guarding with physicality, and making plays for others, I think that the Wolves are not going to miss Nickeil Alexander-Walker as much if Shannon is able to kind of replicate some of what we saw in Vegas. So that was really good. Dillingham had his moments where he struggled running the offense, but he looked very good in an off the ball combo kind of guard situation, getting his own shots, being creative, getting other people involved, throwing lobs to Beringer. And Jalen Clark, this wasn't really the spot for him in Vegas. He wanted to show more of his offensive capabilities, but that's not who he is. He's a role player. He plays, kind of a glue guy, fifth option on the floor, and really kind of gets after you defensively. And so he did not shoot the ball well. Didn't really show a lot more of himself in an offensive bag sort of standpoint, but that's just not his game. So I still think that he will be fine going forward in the kind of the more of the role that he had last season. And so those 3 guys, I think you feel really good about what you saw overall from them in Vegas in terms of transitioning into the rest of the summer and then into training camp.
Let's get to the first-year players here in a second. First, I want to tell you about Giggly, giggly.com, Gigli.com. Promo code is Giggly North, Gigli North. That will get you up to 50% off your first order. After that, if you follow Giggly on social media, you will find other promo codes that you can always get a good deal. Of course, not that expensive to begin with. You can find them at Quick Trips everywhere. I order online and have it delivered to my doorstep. I love that. We're talking about fruit juice, ashwagandha, ginseng, all healthy stuff, no alcohol. You'll sleep better. You'll wake up feeling better. You'll feel fresh. You'll feel relaxed. It'll relieve stress. Sometimes it even relieves muscle soreness. It's kind of magical stuff. And, it's just, I love a cocktail. I'm not going to drink 7 days a week. I'm not going to drink 4 days a week. And this gives me something, if I want something that's like a cocktail, that'll be better for me on a school night. Giggly is perfect for that. Check it out. Check out Giggly.com. You'll find other products. You'll find the cocktails, the seltzers, the teas, the snacks, and everything I've had there is good. I favor the cocktails. My wife favors the tea, especially the lemon iced tea. Just to taste like good Arnie Palmer. Helps you kind of relax at the end of a long day. She works very long hours. It's a welcome thing for her to look forward to. Check out Giggly.com. Use promo code GigglyNorth, and I guarantee you're going to like it. Now I want to hear more about Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than our good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they've got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
So tell me more about Beringer, how his summer went, and what Wolves officials saw from him in the pre-draft workout that led them to be so interested in him.
Right. Yeah. So Jim, they picked Beringer 17th overall on draft night. And, you do hear kind of all of the platitudes that you normally hear when a team picks a player. Yeah, we loved him. Yeah, he was higher on our board and all these things. And so sometimes those responses and evaluations go kind of inside in one ear and out the other for me, because you just always do hear it. But to me, a very strong indicator of where a team thinks a player can go and what you can see from him is in that first summer league. There are many players who have overcome rough early summer league stints and had good careers and put things together. But if a player flashes early, then you start to kind of recalibrate what you think is possible. And I think that for Beringer, he did flash, and he didn't put up monster numbers except in the first game when he had 6 blocks. But what stood out to me more was how generally big this dude is, 6'11", 235, and how fluidly he is moving. And so, when he's playing in these games and then we're out in Vegas and we're talking to the coaches and to the executives about him, you just do see a light in the Wolves' eyes when they talk about what this kid might be capable of. And that's, Matt Lloyd spoke on draft night and said, hey, we would feel comfortable with him playing defense in the league right now. And he said, oh, really? That seems aggressive. But you can see what they were talking about in Vegas with how he moves, with his instincts, with how he reads the game for someone who has just not played very much at all. And now you put him in this incubator in the league with a great development staff with Chris Hines and everyone who runs, Chris Finch's player development part of things. I think there's a belief that he can really make big strides early. And it all kind of goes back to a piece that I wrote just before Summer League about this sort of old school clandestine workout that they had with Beringer, a few days before the draft in Chicago. And kind of the genesis of it was the Wolves really liked Beringer for a long time. They had followed him all year long. They had believed that he was, kind of one of the guys that they were going to target in the draft if they could. And all of their conversations in the weeks leading up to the draft were trying to get a workout with him. But his representatives at Wasserman, Jelani Floyd, was saying, like, guys, I don't think he's going to get to 17. Like, we've heard from teams above him, like that he's just not going to get down there. And, a few things happened the week of the draft to change that. And, Orlando traded, for Desmond Bain. And that made a trade that shuffled right above them, right above the Wolves. And also Atlanta on draft night was a team that was very interested in Beringer at 13, but then New Orleans just made that incredible offer to give them an unprotected first round pick next year to get up to 13 to draft Derek Queen. And the Hawks are just like, wait, we can't pass this up. We've got to bail out of it. But so some of these moves happened, and all of a sudden the possibility of Beringer sliding to the Wolves at 17 was there. And so reading the market a little bit more in the days leading up to the draft, Wasserman started to be more open to the Wolves getting in front of Beringer and getting one more workout in to see if they could really kind of tighten up their evaluation. And so Beringer was in Chicago, and the Wolves and Jelani Floyd called, Matt Lloyd and said, all right, if you want to have a workout, you got to get down to Chicago. We're not coming up to Minnesota. It's been a long week and we're going to do this. And so Joe Connolly, Tim Connolly, Matt Lloyd, Dell Demps, and Alonzo G all flew down to Chicago on the weekend before the draft and had this kind of secret workout at a Chicago high school gymnasium. And they put Beringer through all of these kind of paces, these individual drills. Alonzo G kind of worked as the NBA kind of player to defend and go one-on-one against him and try and work him out a little bit. And they were just blown away by everything they saw from Beringer. And also once they kind of sat down and talked with him, just the curiosity, the intelligence, the aptitude for the game, the personality, his story, they just became captivated by everything that they saw in that workout. And so Joe Connolly told me that they left that workout and said, we got to figure out any way we can to get this guy. And they worked on draft night trying to trade up to get him. And Tim Connolly worked the phones trying to move up, and they couldn't find a deal. And lo and behold, kind of the stars aligned, and Beringer fell right in their laps at 17. And so they were just thrilled with it. And now they really believe that they have a player who will be a part of this core down the line. How soon, we'll see, but they rave about everything about him. And so it's rare that you see a team this high on a player drafted relatively low in the first round, but they're over the moon about Johan Beringer and what he could bring to the table here.
Let's get to a couple other players who showed out at least a little bit in Summer League. I do want to tell you about our longest running sponsor, TSR Injury Law, 612 TSR Time. You know the deal by now, but we like talking about the people. You see the billboards, you see Steve Terry hanging out with Naz Reid. We've got to know Steve. We've got to know some of his partners. We've done shows from their facility. These are people you can trust. If you are ever injured, just call 612 TSR Time. They become a great Minnesota business success story because they take care of Minnesotans. This is a Minnesota business. This is not somebody coming in and pretending they like all the sports teams as a marketing scheme. They actually have had season tickets to the Wolves forever. They are there all the time. We see Steve and his partners there all the time. So just remember, if you're ever hurt, we hope you aren't, but if you're ever hurt, call 612 TSR Time. We also want to thank Royal Credit Union.
Soak up sun, sand, and smart saving with a certificate at Royal Credit Union. Royal's 4.40% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate has guaranteed returns at maturity and no minimum opening balance for fast and easy opening. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/savesmart. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 5/27/25. Insured by NCUA.
Now here's Jon Krawcynski for Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Been telling you about them for more than a year now. Bill Princeton and the Princeton family have been in this business for decades and decades. Stop into Princeton's Liquors. They have everything that you could want from a beverage standpoint, THC seltzers and gummies, any kind of beer, any kind of wine. They're specialties. If you're looking for a great bourbon, if you're looking for a great craft beer, go into Princeton's Liquors, an unbelievable selection of both there, but they have you covered on all fronts at Princeton's Liquors. So, support a community, family-owned business that has been a part of the Twin Cities for ever and ever. Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove.
Did Leonard Miller do himself any good this summer?
You know what? He's one, honestly, Jim, that I'm having a hard time figuring out.
Me too.
Like there are moments in these games where he has clearly an NBA frame, an NBA body. He has a real nose for rebounding and getting his hands on things. And almost after every game that he plays, you look, whether it's in Iowa or whether it's in Vegas, you look at it and you look at the box score and it's 20 points and 10 boards. It's 22 and 11. It's 16 and 8. It's like he puts up big stats all of the time, but you watch him play and it doesn't always feel like he's contributing to winning basketball. And I think that one of the things that Kevin Hansen spoke about in Vegas, and that I've heard a little bit, is that, they want Leonard Miller to be more locked in on the game plan, on, kind of his responsibilities, and doing all of those things. And there's hints that basically he hasn't been the most diligent in terms of knowing his assignments and executing what they want. But from a purely physical standpoint, he's got tools to work with. He can hit a 3-pointer. He can put the ball on the floor. He can make passes. He can grab rebounds. And so, I will say, I don't think that what we saw in Vegas was a just complete kind of sign to everyone is like, hey, I deserve time here. I'm coming and I'm ready to play. But he also did have plenty of moments where you watched it in the game. You're like, oof, like that's impressive. And so, I think that he will remain here. And I think that they will keep him in the fold and keep trying to develop him, but he's kind of coming up against it now, Jim, where he's been in the system for a while and he hasn't gotten time, and that's not good for the team. It's not good for him either. Now, we saw the Wolves kind of let Josh Minot and Luka Garza go this summer and go try and find more playing time elsewhere. And so I think that Leonard Miller could be on the way to that as well, unless something, unexpected happens with an injury and he comes in and really kills it or something like that. I just don't think that he's done enough to force his way into the conversation for the Timberwolves rotation. And it's also difficult for him to do that with Naz Reid and Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert and now Johan Beringer in front of him in the front court.
He strikes me as a really good pickup basketball player.
Yeah, no, you're right. He is instinctive and he's overpowering from a physical standpoint at times. And there are times when he will make just weird kind of shake your head types of mistakes, but then he will grab the ball in the open floor and he'll be 6'10" running it and handling the ball and getting to the basket and scoring. And you're like, man, how many people can really do that at that size? And so he does just enough, I think, to tantalize you and keep you thinking like, well, maybe. But, yes, I think that he seems to be more of a just fly by the seat of his pants kind of a player and less of I'm going to get into a system and I'm going to do what needs to be done. And I'm going to help my team win games at a high level. Put him on the Charlotte Hornets, put him on the Washington Wizards, and maybe you might see a little something more, but this just isn't the spot for him to be playing right now and kind of experimenting and learning through things.
Let's talk a little about Zikarsky. Let's also get a little more on Dillingham. To me, he's such a pivotal figure in this organization right now. First, though, tell us about True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington, truevision.com. I've been telling you for a long time about sort of my experiences, how it makes, my life easier, not having glasses or contacts. But I think one of the things that I want to emphasize a little bit more going forward is just like how it makes your life easier from a financial and strategic standpoint. I mean, not having to go in for eye exams every year and a half, not having to continue to invest in glasses and contacts and trying to stay ahead of the curve from a style standpoint on what's in and what's out, on always going back and ordering more contacts and doing this and doing that. All of that pain in the butt is removed when you go to True Vision and you get LASIK surgery. Life has been just so much easier that way, but I'm also saving money by going this route and by not having to deal with all of the hassles financially and otherwise with glasses and contacts. So go to truevision.com, set up your consultation, tell them the Jon Krawcynski Show sent you, and get on living your life with a little financial freedom and just flexibility overall from True Vision.
And as always, we want to thank the good people at Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. We'll also be doing a Twitter question sponsored by Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line at the end of this show.
sglambchops.com is the place to go for all of the best casual wear that you can find. Use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything you get at sglambchops.com. Hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, hats, all sorts of different stuff that make you look good, make you feel good, ultra comfortable. Wear it out on a night on the town on the North Loop. Wear it at home, lounging around, watching your favorite games, your favorite teams. Anything and everything from Lamb Chops clothing is great. The Jordan was out in Vegas for Summer League, hosted some Timberwolves fans. He is out in the community all the time. So support the companies that are invested in the community like Lamb Chops. Promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything you get at sglambchops.com.
Yes, thanks again. We'll do that quarter question here in a little bit. Tell me about Zakarski, your first impression of him.
Yeah, honestly, Rocco Zakarski looked like I expected Johan Beringer to look in terms of a very big dude, very young, that has plenty of stuff to work on over the next year or two in Iowa. I do see some reasons that the Timberwolves like him. He is fairly mobile for a big guy. He's pretty explosive. He gets to the rim and dunks with authority. Barely has to jump because he's 7'3", but you can see that his size, just his sheer size, presents problems for all sorts of different offensive players that are coming into the lane and trying to make things happen. I have seen video of him start to try to stretch himself out, see if he can knock down some jumpers. And so it'll be interesting to watch just how his game overall develops over the next year or two. But the good news is that he knows that he's going to be in Iowa. The Wolves know he's going to be in Iowa. And I do think that they are just intrigued by the combination of size and mobility. I think the things that I saw in Vegas that were show me that, yeah, he's not ready yet. I think conditioning needs some work. I think he needs to kind of just get in tip top shape. So he's not kind of sucking wind after shorter stints. And then the other thing is when the quicker guards switched onto him and got past his hip on a drive, he's a little heavy footed, kind of moving backward and trying to recover and get through him. He has long arms. He can still block shots, but just kind of those things are initial impressions that will need to be addressed kind of going forward here. All in all, though, I do like the overall physical package that he has and think that, he's just going to be someone to watch in Iowa over the next 2 or 3 years here and just see how he grows into his body, how he develops his skill set, and what kind of possibilities that he does have. But yeah, there's definitely plenty of rawness there that will need to be addressed over the long haul.
And let's go back to Dillingham. I'm sure we're going to be talking about Dillingham a lot this summer and this fall. He just seems like such a pivotal player. what does he have to do better? I mean, is it simply just running the offense and making shots, or is there a lot more to it than that?
Yeah, I think a couple of things that I saw in Vegas that, you want to see him improve on. One is he didn't shoot it great. I think it was 38% from the field. I was less concerned about, I think he was 33% from three. Is what it is. It can come and go in small sample sizes. What I want to see him figure out is how he finishes at the rim. There was plenty of times in the summer league where he is so quick, he is so dynamic with his dribble that he can get by people, he can get to the rim. Then it's a matter of being able to finish over the big guys. He's still undersized. He's going to have to deal with that his whole career. And so there's going to need to be some creativity in the angles that he takes and just the finishing package that he has to be able to complete those plays, because he does have the quickness to generate really good opportunities down there. But it doesn't look yet like he is fully comfortable with finishing over bigger guys with floaters, with kind of teardrops, with just using the rim as kind of another obstacle for a defender to deal with, and being creative that way. So he's got to improve there. The other thing that is probably a bigger conversation is, what exactly are we expecting of Rob Dillingham, the point guard? Because if you want him to be Mike Conley or Tyus Jones, that's not his game. Like, he is not just the floor general game manager quarterback type of a player. He is more of a combo guard, explosive guy that is just going to have to play the game differently than Mike Conley does. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think if you look around the league, the examples of a Conley-like point guard are going away. Chris Paul is going to retire pretty soon. Conley's probably going to retire either this year or next year. And Tyus Jones is a guy who struggled to find some footing in Phoenix. And part of that is, I think, style of play. And so I think that Dillingham is a more modern point guard. The way that he plays, the way that he can generate his own offense, the way that he can score in bunches is probably more conducive to this modern NBA game and what the point guard has become, especially alongside an Anthony Edwards or Dante DiVincenzo or those types of things. And so I do think that the game is going to have to be tailored to him differently. And how Chris Finch goes about structuring the lineups when Conley is out there versus when Dillingham is out there is going to be interesting. He cannot make Dillingham be Mike Conley. He also cannot make Mike Conley be Rob Dillingham. There are two different players that way. And I think where we saw Dillingham at his most effective in Vegas was when he was kind of playing off the ball some with Tristan Newton as the point guard. And so they're going to have to be much more creative in the way that they utilize Rob next to Edwards, next to DiVincenzo, those kinds of lineups. And I think that's going to be key to helping Dillingham reach whatever ceiling he does have. And so it's going to take some compromising. It's going to take some kind of like meeting of the minds with everyone involved to just put him in different positions to succeed. And I think it's doable, absolutely. But I just do think it is going to require a different approach than they've had the last 3 years with Mike Conley as the main driver of the offense when he is at the point guard spot.
Will Dillingham be able to stand up to extended minutes defensively?
That's going to be a good question. I thought that watching him in Vegas, I actually thought that he fought pretty well defensively. He is going to give you effort. There's certainly going to be just times where he comes up short, literally, and where he doesn't have the size. But I do think that the Wolves are positioned to absorb that weakness better than many teams. You have Anthony Edwards, a good defender right next to him. You have Jaden McDaniels. You have Rudy Gobert behind him. And so there are pieces that are in place that can help Rob Dillingham deal with that part of it. And then you access what Rob Dillingham does for you in a positive way by having him out there with the shot creation, with transition, with more offensive capabilities and more firepower than you might have with Conley out there. And so I don't see him ever being, a plus defender, but I also do not see this as a case of him not putting in the effort, him not understanding where he needs to be. It's just, can he overcome some of the physical mismatches that are going to be created on this, on the floor in the NBA. And, you can hide him on some guys, you can do different things with him to be creative that way. So it's going to be a bit of a detriment, but I don't think it's going to be something that is like to the point where we just can't play him, because it's too hard to make up for what he lacks defensively. I think they're going to be able to work with him on that. And I think he's going to play with the energy that is needed to account for as much of his weaknesses there as is possible. And so I think I'm just not as concerned about that at that end of things as maybe some people are.
Let's get to our Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing Twitter question of the week.
Yeah, let me find it here. It is from CJ Buchanan. And he said, I saw Kevin Hansen running the sidelines during Summer League. He's been here since the Ryan Saunders era. What insights can you share about his style and relationship with players? It's a good question and a good time to get to that. Kevin Hansen has been here a while. He knew Chris Finch and coached with Chris Finch in New Orleans before Finch arrived. And so he was a holdover from the Ryan Saunders staff to Chris Finch's staff, along with Pablo Prigioni and a couple others. But, what I saw from Kevin Hansen in his stint as a head coach at Summer League was I saw a team that was pretty well organized, that understood what they needed to do, that was really did absorb whatever game plans they were putting into place. There was certainly plenty of chaos in Summer League, as there always is, but and there were some turnovers and things like that, but it did look like a team that was really well organized. And I think that speaks to the messaging that Kevin Hansen kind of provides there. The other thing in just talking to Kevin and getting his views on players and what was going on, he reminds me of Chris Finch a lot in the way that he is not shy about speaking plainly about the positives and the negatives of a player. He was pretty blunt in his criticism of Leonard Miller after the first game. He was pretty forthright in what they wanted to see from Rob Dillingham and what he needs to do better and what he can build on. And I do think that kind of just open communication is helpful for a player, because there's nothing that Hansen was telling us that he hadn't already told the players. And in that environment, you have to communicate directly with them. You have to set that clear sort of marching orders and expectations for what needs to happen. And he has a good way about him in terms of delivering the feedback in a non kind of threatening or non, red ass type of a manner, but it is straightforward, and he's going to speak to you like an adult and say, hey, this is what's going on. And so, I like the way that he carries himself. I do think that the players respect the way that he approaches things. And I think that, he's going to be in this league a very long time. Will he be a future head coach? We'll see. But at least he is really highly respected within the Wolves staff. Chris Finch really leans on him, especially with the big guys, to kind of provide the teaching that needs to be done there and the feedback. But also he has a lot of say in what they do defensively, in the game planning and things like that. So valued member of the staff. And I thought that he, with the way the Wolves played in Vegas, went 4-1 in there and had a lot of success with a talented team. it just showed that he had them focused and locked in and ready to go. So that reflects well on what Kevin Hansen was doing.
Good question. Also, good show from Jon as usual. We'll be back next week. Also, check out Jon on the Viking Update Show. We have tons of Viking content, tons of wild content. This right now is our only basketball show at TalkNorth.com, so we kind of cover everything, and Jon does a great job with that. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening, and we will talk to you soon.